Hello there, hi, and welcome to Butterfly Effect, a podcast all about interviewing people. I'm your host, Tristan Ettleman, and things are going well. We've got a couple more guests in the works, and the hiatuses, the hiatus, sounds strange, are getting fewer and further between. And so today I talked with Matt Lieberman, formerly of SourceFed, comedian, all-around nice, smart guy. It was a good conversation. We talk about how SourceFed, the YouTube channel and network, kind of were canceled, and kind of what he's been doing in the wake of that, just this past month. And a lot of inspiring talk. Matt is a very profound guy, and as in his own words, earnest. So that came out in the conversation. It was a real pleasure, and I'm glad we could talk. So there's nothing else going on with me. There's nothing that needs to be said. So without further ado, let's talk to Matt Lieberman. What's new with you? I know things have probably been shaken up for you recently. So with SourceFed's cancellation. So what have you been doing since then, or how have you been reacting to it?
I mean, I've been doing a variety of things. Mostly, I've just been processing, which makes it sound like I'm the opposite of busy, which is not true.
Sure.
But it's always very strange when you've been working somewhere for 3 years and you've got a very set lifestyle, to have that suddenly stop and suddenly have, nowhere to go 5 days a week. You got to figure out what life looks like. But I'm working on a podcast which should be coming out next month. I'm working on a cookbook. It's sort of like I've got 8 different things that I'm working on all at the same time. So nothing's come out yet because I keep puttering around from thing to thing to thing. But yeah, man, I guess just getting used to things and figuring out what I want to do with my time. I'm trying not to run and grab a new job in the short term.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's funny that you say that nothing's coming out. I mean, in this internet world we are living in, I feel like you probably have gotten some response like that, oh, what's the thing you're doing now? It's probably been what has it been? A month, 2 months? It's
it's been a month, and I feel like I'm the laziest person ever, which is just so not the case.
No.
You keep up with everybody. Will's got his podcast, sure. Sam and DJ have their podcast. I know Bree's working on stuff.
Steve and Mike's got...
Yeah, everybody's got stuff going on. So it's just because my stuff isn't coming out weekly yet,
yeah.
I feel like on some level, oh no, am I behind? Am I falling behind other people? Which is just so not the way you should be thinking about yourself or what you do. My girlfriend says all the time, she's got a great motto, which is keep your eyes on your own paper, which is just the truth. You can't judge yourself based on what other people are up to. You kind of have to judge yourself by how do you feel? Does it feel good? Are you making progress on the thing you want to do? Which I am. So things are okay.
Yeah, that's really all you can ask. As someone who has come up against, not even in terms of cancellations, I never even got to the point of having a thing going like that. In terms of, because I'm a freelance writer, and I pitch stuff, I'm pitching all the time. It's not that the things they're just not going. I don't even get past that initial stage.
Right.
But I'm accustomed to failure. So I think that's building a good mindset in my mind of all right, well, if I like it, then fine. Whereas if you kind of have this instant kind of success or some kind, or even if you're set in your ways even more so than it sounds like you could have been, it can kind of break you if you come up against failure or any kind of pushback.
Yeah, I see that, man. I get it. I guess where I was at was with SourceFed, you get used to writing every day. Like, I remember when I was moved off of SourceFed, before Nuclear Family came out, there was like a 6-month period where we were just making videos. Like, we were just like getting sketches produced, but nothing was coming out. And after like having videos come out every day for the previous like 2 years, I started to feel this like weird itch, because it had been a while since I had just been doing something just because I liked it, or just because just for my own self-gratification.
Sure.
You get used to that instant gratification of it comes out, people like it or people hate it.
Yeah, it's we're being conditioned towards that direction. It's, there's, arguments for and against it as with most things, but I just feel like the most you could ever do is, like you're saying, do what you want, and to some degree, and what you like doing. So, I mean, as long as you got that, that's...
Yeah. Well, you say you're freelance writing. Like, what are you writing?
Well, I write mostly in the video game journalism world, which is something that I've done since I was like 15 or something, paid. But yeah, I don't know. It's become more so that I don't know if that's necessarily the path. But
okay.
But I do write for myself, and I write things that I don't put out, and I write things that I do put out and no one sees. But it's like still just for me, So.
Yeah, which like at the end of the day, no matter how much money you chase or how much money you make, if you're not doing it because you like it, then something's wrong. Like, I had gotten to a place where my channel, I was doing a show called Ask Liebs for a very long time. And it was helping a lot of people, and I'd gotten – it took a long time for me to even just get into that work ethic of, like, for a while it was videos 7 days a week and videos 5 days a week, and then a podcast once a week, but just sort of like answering these very personal, often very dark emails. And I for like the last few months of it, I'd gotten very sort of depressed, and I was very self-conscious of, like, am I giving advice to these people that's helping them? Like, is it coming at the expense of my health? Because, like, a lot of people were getting a lot out of these things, but, like, I increasingly dreaded doing it for the simple fact that, like, I was having to, like, deal with incredibly dark issues and, like, voluntarily opening myself up to, like, imagining these dark issues and having to confront them and try to give people support and give them hope and give them a lifeline. And as much as I saw the value in it, it was increasingly becoming unhealthy. And I couldn't do it anymore. I had to stop. And I still think about it all the time. The worst thing was, like, I talked a lot about suicide on the show. A lot of people would write into me talking about suicide, thinking about suicide, asking about suicide, and there comes a point where you can't talk about it anymore. Like, you've said everything that you can say on the subject. And I was doing these weekly Google Hangouts with people, like a mix of people from teenagers to adults, and they had formed this community, this like very beautiful community with each other, and had become friends. And there was someone who was on one of these, who had been a regular on these chats, who then one day I woke up to an email from this teenager saying she was going to kill herself right after she sent this email, and there was nothing I could do to stop it. And she's sorry that she said she was sorry that I couldn't save her, which was never my job. Yeah. And all of a sudden, this thing that had brought me a lot of joy was like making me come to grips with a lot of very difficult issues. And thank God the girl reached out to me a few weeks later. She's fine, or at least was the last time that I'd heard from her. But it's like you open yourself up to something. Granted, that's a very extreme example.
Sure.
But like when you open yourself up to a thing, no matter how passionate you are about it, you always have to be able to gut check yourself. It's like, am I getting out of this what I need to or what I want to? Is this still the thing I want it to be? Is this still worth like time and energy are kind of like the soft terms, but it's like my soul. Like, is it doing more damage than it's doing good?
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like that can also come from creative endeavors too.
Sure. Well, first of all, that gave me chills when you were telling me that. That's a heavy thing to be faced with, and this is something that, you know, your show is very serious. That's not really the word I want to use, but you obviously took care with your words and stuff like that. And there's other like advice podcasts and shows out there that take it kind of flippantly.
Mm-hmm.
To be fair, their subjects usually are what they're talking about aren't such serious topics as well. But I'm wondering if there's some a disconnect there in terms of, I guess no one doing these things are licensed therapists, but there's no way to vet like who is really putting in this kind of work that I think clearly you were, and who's not.
Yeah,
that's just an observation on that show and what you were doing with it and that response.
I appreciate that. I think when it comes to advice shows, like, yeah, flippant is maybe not the word that I would use. You know, I think it ultimately comes down to what kind of person you are. Like, I didn't start that show to give advice. Like, I had originally started making videos just to force myself to make videos. I was doing what was like a weight loss blog that became just a positivity blog, and then people started writing to me, and I started responding to their questions because I wanted to help if I could. And increasingly, because I'm a very earnest person, like I don't really have a wall up.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you listened to Missing Richard Simmons, that podcast.
I need to listen to it. People have been talking about it. I haven't checked it out yet though.
Yeah, it's such a frustrating show because it starts out with this very compelling mystery. By the end, that's not really the point, and you also at the same time kind of feel complicit in what is ultimately an extreme invasion of privacy. But one remark that the host made about Richard Simmons, and I think the final episode of that podcast, in the final hour of it, was that Richard Simmons was somebody who had a great deal of empathy for other people and had spent decades just giving it away, like giving it and giving and giving and giving and giving, and then one day woke up and decided that he couldn't give anymore. And when he realized that he didn't have to, he couldn't go back to how things were. And that's kind of, I think, what happened with me in that sense is like, I have a lot of empathy for other people because I was very miserable when I was young. And I spend like quite a lot of time thinking about who I could have wound up being if I hadn't made some very good choices, and if I hadn't spent time in therapy, and if I hadn't met some very wonderful people, and had kind of opened myself up and let myself be vulnerable and make real friendships and, you know, like fall in love. And I could have been an extremely lonely, extremely miserable, angry person, and I was on the road to being that when I was a teenager. So, like,
I think I'm at that crossroads, right?
Yeah.
I'm a little bit past it, hopefully down the right path, but that's you know, interesting you say that because that's resonating. That's a similar kind of thing happening to me now, a few years removed from probably when.
What do you mean by that? Can we work with it?
Yeah, it's like it's just like a. You know, single mother, only child type thing.
Okay.
Where you shield yourself. This is funny. I just went to therapy yesterday, and and then you kind of don't engage in relationships the way you should in terms of showing proper care to someone else or anything like that.
Well, because it's in that sort of relationship where it's just the two of you. There is a sort of you feel a little bit responsible and you kind of give maybe a little too much. So then when it's time to open up to another person, there is that sort of, there's a wariness of what am I going to get out of this? Is this safe? Is this, I totally get that.
I think it's less so for me, and this is where the crossroads was. I think it was less so for me, is this safe, and less so, is this, in a very selfish way, is this good for me? Is this, and I guess that can be tied to, is this safe? But, it's just, there's a lot of anger there. There's a lot of selfishness there. It's just interesting that you're saying that, because that crossroads, I think, is one that I would, not to diminish anyone else's experiences, your experience or mine, I guess, but
no.
I think everyone has that crossroad of do I take my pain and anguish and turn bitter, or do I learn from it and try to be better? And I think everyone has that at some point in their life or multiple times.
I think it can come off as flippant, but I don't mean it to be when I say that I think happiness is very much a choice. It's it's a daily choice of one of my best friends, who is just an incredible dude who's been through a lot. We were talking for a while about I'm not a religious person. We were talking about that whole idea of higher power and whatever, and he said he doesn't think of it in terms of a god. He thinks of it in terms of the fact that you have no control over anything but yourself. That we are all so very, 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 very small. In the grand scheme of the universe, each one of us is so freaking tiny. Yeah. And when you grow up in a dysfunctional fashion, you wind up expending a lot of energy trying to control things to maintain some level of order, right? Mm-hmm. And that's one way that one trap people fall into, and I was in that trap myself, is one way of controlling your existence is to not let go of that pain and maintain a version of your life that you at least are familiar with, how it works. And without taking any risks of trying to make things better, you will always remain, in control of it. I'm not letting any new energy in. I know what my life looks like, and I'm in charge. But there's that denial of that is a choice. You are complicit in doing that. I think it's a brave and scary choice to wake up on a given day and actively do things that make you happy, even if you don't know how they'll turn out.
Yeah, no, and that's something that I don't think people consciously deny, but it gets wrapped up in the other stuff in life and having to go to work and stuff like that. It's
self-awareness is a trip.
It's that's a great way to say it, because it is of any kind. It ranges so far. Obviously, as humans, we have self-awareness of we're gonna die someday, and there's a balancing. I don't know the quote or who said it, so I don't know why I'm saying it. But basically, we got to live with with an acceptable level of contradictions, and so I think the choice of happiness is one of those. Because if you're thinking logically or whatever, it's why even try? I'm gonna die. Well, those two things contradict each other, but that's something you gotta work into your life, or else you're just gonna. What's the point? So.
Yeah, man. Well, none of us chose. That's the thing. Is the one choice nobody gets is whether or not they get to be born. That's made for you. Yeah. That's made for you. So everything after that is really up to you. And a lot of people, I think, just never get over the the anguish of the fact that they didn't get to make that choice, that they didn't get to choose to be brought into a world that is increasingly confusing and a lot of things can go wrong. Like it can just really be a bitch. But it's not just like a one time, like I decide to be happy. That's flippant. But like to actively look at your life and see, like, what is bringing me joy, what is bringing me pain, and if the ratio is skewed, what can I do today to untip those scales? Like, one thing that Denise, my girlfriend, and I, we look at a lot, we talk about a lot, is like, what parts of our lives are negative energy and what's positive energy? And when you let go of the negative energy, you're giving room for something positive to come in. And we've like seen that happen so many times in just the last year, when we pare away commitments or I'll give examples. Sure. She was on a sketch team, and all good people, friends of hers, and like she liked the material, she liked what she was doing, but at the same time, she was like talking about it all the time, just like, why aren't we further along? Like all kinds of, it wasn't a perfect situation. Mm-hmm. And then when she let it go, all of a sudden her career started to explode. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. I guess what I'm trying to say is like, sometimes even though it's scary, like I think for me, like I'd kind of gotten to that place a little bit with SourceFed. As much as I enjoy a lot of the things I got to do and the people I got to work with, I had, especially once I knew that Nuclear Family was ending, mm-hmm. I knew that it wasn't a positive place for me anymore. And if I wasn't going to be let go, I would have left probably sometime like around now. Right. To let other stuff in. Like, that's the thing, is like, I'm sad that place isn't around anymore because it means so much to so many people, and I think that we were finally kind of getting our footing in a very real way that could be built upon after a few years of figuring stuff out. But I think that everybody who was there is going to not only be fine, they're going to thrive. Yeah. I think that there are a lot of people there who needed, or maybe needed's the wrong word, but like, I think we'll all benefit from kind of like the collective kick in the ass that getting fired is.
Yeah, I've talked with, I've had both Steve and Ross on here before, and I've referred to SourceFed like this before. It's kind of like an interesting SNL YouTube situation where, you know, people are there, they're kind of incubated, then they spread off and do, you know, really cool things on their own and stuff like that. So I feel like everyone that was involved there is spreading out and doing cool stuff.
Spreading their wings.
Exactly. So okay. So Matt, where did you grow up? Where are you from?
I'm from New Jersey. I'm from South Orange, New Jersey. My first house was in Maplewood. Then I spent most of my childhood in South Orange, and they share a school district. And it's like, you know, very lovely tree-filled suburb, but like a very diverse place, like racially and socioeconomically. Like, you know, there were very rich people, there were very poor people, and we were all in the same schools together. And I think that gave me a very important view of the world. And I'm very grateful to my parents for like raising us in that environment. Like, you know, my high school, I think it was like 54% African American, like 20-something% Caucasian, and like it was just a very like mixed environment. So like, I don't know, I've grown up very passionate about socioeconomic issues and issues of like, you know, racial and sexual inequality, LGBT inequality, because that was sort of the environment that we were raised. There was a walkout my senior year of high school because our principal, or like our whole school district had engaged in this like really, it wound up being kind of a racist policy, this leveling policy of like, I don't know if all schools do this or even some or most schools do this, but we had like, depending on your performance level in your classes, you were either in level 2, level 3, or level 4, and then level 5 was AP classes or whatever. And like, even though grades didn't necessarily reflect it, like white kids were more likely to be put in higher levels than non-white kids. Sure. And someone found the data on this, and it was a big, scandal. Like that's
you had a politically active school class there.
Yeah.
I can't even imagine my high school getting any kind of motivation to do something like that.
I mean, I don't know if it's just like where we were or like who was in my grade or whatever, but like I was a very antisocial kid. I kind of had like my uniqueness beaten out of me when I was very young. Like teasing and bullying and that kind of crap, but like excuse me, I was a very I still am, just a very emotional, very sensitive person. And I had a crush on a girl when I was 5 years old, and I was obsessed with her for years. And then before she moved away when I was 10, she had made this very public declaration of like how disgusting she thought I was. And it like really fucked with my confidence. And I retreated inward, and I started just like, it sounds almost like creepy to say, but I was like watching people for like the next few years, like reverse engineering how people talk to each other without rejection, I guess. It was like a little education of psychology and sociology of like, how do my classmates interact with each other? Why do they like each other? And, like being an introspective person, I think kind of leads to creativity, like either creativity or bitterness or both. So like, I was reading all the time. I walked around my school from like age 10 till I graduated with like my finger between the pages of a book. And as soon as I'd sit down in class, I'd like rush to class as fast as I could so I could have a few minutes before the bell rang where I could keep reading before I'd have to put it away, or more likely just have it open under my desk and kind of like sneak read through the lesson. But yeah, I was a lonely kid. It definitely was not a perfect childhood, but I am grateful for all the experiences that I've had. I don't know that I'd wish some of them on other people. But, grew up there, went to college in Boston, Emerson College, which is a great place to be if you want to be creative. Like, I think the sort of like the pitch line for me for Emerson College is if you know what you want to do, you can go there and just start doing it. Like, that's the best place to be. Is like you're not going to learn the majority of what you'll learn there from your classes. You can just jump in and start doing the thing. Like if you want to make movies or make TV or videos or whatever, there are people doing it outside of class every weekend, and you can just work on their sets and learn from your classmates.
Someone else I talked to went to Emerson. I can't remember.
I don't know who.
I'm looking up right now. I don't know. But continue. Sorry, I just wanted to.
No, but that's fine. Like the reason why Emerson is great is like 18 years old, my first semester there. I tried stand up for the first time, my first week there, and loved it. And then suddenly I was like, oh, I could be funny. Like I had no idea that I was a funny person, or even could be funny or be funny for a living until I got to Emerson. And then within 2 weeks of that, I was the head writer and associate producer of a comedy show on the Emerson channel. I was 18. I'd never done anything like that before. Wow. But like just by the sheer amount of opportunities and like no one telling me that I couldn't try, I wound up getting a lot of responsibility very fast. And then from there, I was associate producer on a pilot, like a sitcom pilot, and kind of learned the ins and outs of single camera producing. And then by my second year, I was 19, I'd gotten some funding from the school to make my own sitcom, which is terrible.
What was it called?
It was called Off Campus. I had this obsession with, like, there are high school shows, but there are no college shows. Like, there's Undeclared, but there,
I was going to say Undeclared.
Yeah, but there's there aren't really, like, Greek, like, had just come out, and I was upset because it was a soap, and it wasn't really, like, true to life or whatever. But, like, in all honesty, there is nothing more boring than a bunch of fucking college kids in a dorm room. Like, looking back. And I thought I was, like, being revolutionary or something, and I was obsessed with, like, succeeding very young. I think I had something to prove coming out of high school and feeling very isolated. I was just like, I want to be special and important very quickly. Josh Schwartz, who created the OC, he created the OC at 20.
I was just going to say, yeah.
I was obsessed with him. I
was just about to look up who that was. I was trying to remember what his name was.
Mm-hmm. Well, okay. His family is in the business, so like he grew up in it. That helps a lot. But he's still an incredibly talented guy.
Sure, yeah.
But by the time I moved here, I was 21, and I was like pulling my hair out because I wanted to like beat this guy, and thankfully, I, in short order, got some great advice from an assistant. I was an intern at MTV and Comedy Central, and one of the assistants at MTV. He was 31, which is, like, old for an assistant. And he was like, look, man, like, you are constantly learning. You are always going to be a student. You're never going to be a master of this business. Like, you will be a student of it from the moment you start until the moment you end. And retire, and like it doesn't matter when you succeed. You could break out at any time, as long as you're a good person and you're not fucking anyone over to do it. Like eventually good things happen to good people. And for him, like he's like, I made the decision to stay in an assistant job because I make good money, I have a kid, like, and this is where my priorities shook out. I decided I'd rather, like, be more secure and be able to, like, spend time with my kid and make a good wage than go make something, which is what I wanted when I moved out here.
Sure, and he's still close to the thing that's something I realized this is a weird thing. I had an epiphany watching Kong, Skull Island.
I still haven't seen it.
It was whatever. It was fine. But the credits just went on forever. And it hit me, like I knew this intellectually, but I realized it. I'm like, if you wanted to, you could work in film. Like, you could. There's so many jobs.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
When they were, and that's what I mean. Like, if you really, like, I understand if you want to be an actor, director, or writer, whatever, like, those are targets and those are dreams, whatever. But if you want to just be close to film and be involved, there's so much in TV and obviously stuff that's online now. There's so much stuff that you could do.
Oh,
and it hit me like, I guess, like I said, I knew that, I guess, but just seeing it, I was like, I could probably, if I really wanted to, get some kind of in, and it might not go anywhere further than that, but I could still be close to this realm that I love,
Yeah. So. I'm really enjoying, there's a podcast called Don't Keep Your Day Job, and the woman who started it, who's the host, she's a singer-songwriter who made her living, like, still, sorry.
Sorry.
Gotta turn that off. She made her living not by like touring or having an album or anything like that. She's like, look, I just want to make money, make a living doing the thing I love, which is writing and recording songs. So she instead looked at like commercials and TV shows and was like, how do songs wind up in a commercial or on a TV show? And she learned about music supervisors who pick out that music and license it, and she started just writing songs specifically for commercials and made hundreds of thousands of dollars doing it. Doing the thing that she loves doing, but in an adjacent world to what she had always thought you had to be. It's funny because, like, when I was a teenager and I was thinking about, like, what jobs in film and TV I would want, I was like, one of them was like, oh, a music supervisor, that could be cool. Like, I don't need to make my own movies, but if I can do something creative in that world, I'd be happy. There's enough. Here's the thing, is like, there is enough work for everyone if you're willing to swallow your ego and do something that isn't necessarily the most glamorous. I mean, my first job in LA was I was a PA on an independent feature, and my first task was like cleaning this ancient toilet that had once been used by Howard Hughes. Like, it was like it was an abandoned hospital on the east side of LA, and the whole top floor was where Howard Hughes spent the last few years of his life after he could not be like left alone. And we were shooting like some scenes for this movie in there, and my job was to clean the bathroom so the crew could use it. So it's like just on my hands and knees scrubbing a toilet. And it's like, if you can find some kind of like peace or enjoyment in doing something like that, then you can do anything, I guess.
Yeah, I guess there's a kind of a disparaging thing of like, oh, that's settling or whatever.
Nah,
and that's, I don't think that's the case.
Here's the thing. The only thing that I think settling applies to is like, are you doing something that doesn't make you excited? Like, are you living a life that's that's not satisfying? That's settling. Like, a phrase that we use a lot in our house is like, don't chase small money. Like, don't just do a job just so that we have a little more money. Like, we know how to stretch a dollar, and if we have to, we can just continue to stretch it until we're able to find things that make us happier. Like, don't just jump at the first thing that is willing to pay you just so that you can feel secure, and then waste money on like cocktails and bullshit. Like, try to live a better life.
Yeah. So what was the comedy influence coming from? I imagine you watched a lot of comedy as a kid and as a teenager and stuff like that. So what drew you to that when you went to college and abroad?
The hardest I've ever laughed was watching Chris Rock Bigger and Blacker on DVD, and I'd never seen stand up before. Like, I'd heard some like clips and stuff. My brother would download like Cosby and like Andrew Dice Clay and like all this random stuff, and I'd like
choice individuals,
right? And very highly. And like, we'd listen to stuff, but I'd never seen anyone do stand up before. And I was 16, and I only knew Chris Rock, well, because of his movies, but also from like clips of the Chris Rock show that I had downloaded through like, not Napster. What came after Napster? Morpheus. There were a bunch of file sharing, or Kazaa or whatever, and I loved those clips. This was like pre-YouTube, so I grabbed this DVD and I was blown away. It was so funny. But I think a lot of my sense of humor comes from like either like imagining things with my brother and giggling about it, and cartoons. Like, I watched nonstop cartoons. I wasn't allowed to watch like the broadcast networks or like any TV for adults when I was young, and it never occurred to me when I was like, for most of my teenage years, that like the policy on that had probably changed. So it was kind of like just all cartoons, and then when I was in middle school, it was like cartoons and wrestling, and then when file sharing stuff started having video, I started just downloading every episode of The Office when that was like in its early seasons. It was like The Office, cartoons, like old episodes of Freakazoid, and like random, like Clone High. Like, did you watch Clone High?
No, but I'm familiar with it, and it's on the list, the ambiguous list.
Watch Clone High. Okay. I'm so freaking happy that what are their names? Miller and Christopher.
Tim Lord.
Yeah, Tim Lord and Chris Miller are as big as they are now and are now directing a freaking Star Wars movie. They had chops all the way back then. That show is so fucking funny. But obscure cartoons for adults is sort of like how I cultivated my understanding of what was funny. That was really
Adult Swim stuff in there too.
Yeah, Adult Swim when it first came out, home movies and Harvey Birdman and all that. Space Ghost Coast to Coast I saw for the first time when I was 8, and it blew my freaking mind.
What a weird... How did that show even happen? It's a Hanna-Barbera character that...
I read an oral history of it once, and it's they had some kind of leftover budget when Cartoon Network was still Turner. It was still part of Turner Broadcasting. They had a little bit of their budget left over, and there was an interest in doing some kind of show for adults, but it had to be made incredibly cheaply. It had to be beyond bargain basement budget. So they had all these old episodes and animations of all these Turner cartoons, and they chose Space Ghost, and they're wouldn't it be weird and funny if Space Ghost was a late night host? And it's if you could do it for this amount of money, then you have 13 episodes. So they figured out how to animate it as cheaply as possible, and they bring in celebrities to this little hole in the wall studio in Atlanta. And they'd have one of the producers in a Space Ghost outfit behind a glass window, just sort of interviewing them and fucking with them, and then they would just take the raw footage and write an episode around what they could do with that footage.
Wow.
And it's still to me, it's the punk rock ideal of what comedy could and should be. Yeah, that show maybe was probably the first genuinely funny thing I'd ever seen. And it's just so weird and so random, and it could be anything. And that's sort of that idea of the boundless nature of what comedy can be is what excites me about it. Right now I'm directing a 2-man sketch team here in Los Angeles. And the thing that I kind of try to impress on them and that excites me about their material, because they're, smart, good, hardworking guys, and they take my notes, is that you can really do anything. At the end of the, comedy at its very core, I talked about this once on a podcast for Test Tube Plus, with Trace Dominguez. Comedy is, the reason why we laugh. One of my teachers once told us about this. It's when humans were very undeveloped and we were living in the wilderness, right? You gather around a campfire at night and you hear rustling in the bushes. And everyone around the campfire tenses up because we don't know what's in the bushes. It could be, a saber-toothed tiger or whatever, something that's going to jump out and kill us, or other people or whatever. And then out from the rustling bushes hops a fluffy bunny. Everyone around the campfire laughs because we have subverted a thing that we thought was scary and had built tension, and it turns out it wasn't scary at all. And ultimately, all comedy is playing with and subverting tension with the audience, building tension and then releasing it at the right time. So you can do that in a wide variety of ways. So that's kind of that's why I like what I do, is figuring out fresh new ways to get a laugh and how many different kinds of laughs you can put into a show. That's always going to be exciting for me.
Yeah, that's why I never got why, recently there's been conversations about, safe comedy and stuff like that. And, there obviously is stuff that goes, it's just not funny. That goes over the line.
That's the thing that the problem with that debate is not that we're having the debate. It's people genuinely just defending things that aren't funny, laughs that aren't earned, and like that's muddying the argument and pushing people who are against shitty comedy and just people being assholes. It's what's pushing them even further away from, you know, free expression, because the debate winds up getting muddied. It's a problem.
Yeah. But my point is that people that are kind of muddying that debate don't understand that comedy is, you know, subversion. It is this kind of, it's not supposed to be, I guess, straight and narrow. I don't know.
Well, you can't. It's not about just presenting the thing, right?
Sure.
Like, if you're just gonna go on stage and just present sexual assault as a funny thing, that's not funny. Like, that's genuinely upsetting. You're wrong for doing that. But if you're able to subvert that topic in a way that's earned, where you have an understanding of like how that's going to make people feel, but your point is good enough, is smart enough, is something that we hadn't considered about it, you've earned the laugh that you get.
That's what you just said there, of like something that we hadn't considered. I guess that's the element that can make those things work. That's the key, I think, there, because that is the subversion. That is the oh, I didn't think about that, and that comes out, you know.
There's a Louis C.K. joke about divorce, which, like, for a while, and for some people will always be a sensitive subject, where he talks about, like, divorce is never a bad thing. Like, no one ever gets
yes, okay.
Yeah, divorce is never a bad thing. Like, no one ever got divorced because things were going to work out. Which is just, like, a very obvious thing, but a point that many people had never considered. I had never thought of it in that way, and that's why it earned my laugh.
Right. Yeah. That's a great point. I think comedy, not to compare two totally different art forms or expressions, but comedy is so much more nuanced to me than drama, in a way. Like, I know why I should be sad in certain situations if I'm watching a movie. When I'm watching a funny movie and I'm laughing, I don't always necessarily know, I can't articulate why I'm laughing right then and there. If I think about it and, you know, really look at it critically, but it's much more reactionary to me, and something that I don't think a lot of people have a language to describe or talk about.
I see your point there, but I do want to go back to the idea that, like, it's somehow more compelling or more artful than drama. Yeah. I think there's just a lot of shitty drama, like a lot of watered down, lazy piece of shit drama.
Of course,
because like, if it's just, oh, I'm sad or I'm relieved or whatever, if it's a base emotion, then that's just not compelling writing. Like, a great drama makes you feel for and understand another person. It's supposed to touch something in your soul. Like, I went and saw Long Day's Journey into Night, Eugene O'Neill, and I hadn't seen a play in a while, and I was, like, blown away by all of the different things that it made me feel, and how much it made me care about these people that I only knew over the course of these 3 hours, right? The vast majority of drama doesn't even attempt to go there anymore. And I think artful drama is just as difficult as artful comedy. It's rare that people attempt it in a popular medium anymore.
Yeah, I guess it's not so much that I'm trying to compare the two mediums as one being better than the other.
Sure.
It's just something to me that comedy's always been more compelling, you know, and something that I've kind of cultivated a obsession with.
Yeah.
You know, you hear comedy nerds, you don't really hear, like, I guess they're
it's like more like drama geeks, and it's like to do drama. Right.
Yeah. I just feel like there's an indescribable element to both, and for some reason the one with comedy of the nuance of the, not that there isn't nuance with drama, attracts me so much more. For some, I don't know what it is.
Well, I think there's something very, like, seductive and powerful about it. There's a level of control, like a great comedian, the way you're able to control a room and, like, guide a group of people It's almost like casting a spell. Like when you're doing stand-up or you're performing and you're able to, like, really bring the audience exactly where you want them to go, it's a very powerful feeling. It's like there's nothing cooler than that.
Yeah, and it's something that I haven't experienced on that scale, but as the class clown or whatever you want to call it,
sure.
You know, as a kid, that was that same, you know, feeling, that same motivation. And it's more, and it feels better than being like, I have power over you, I'm going to punch you in the face.
Yeah, because fuck that. That's like a destructive thing. Make someone,
right,
you know, feel something good.
Right. So that's where I think comedy connects. But so you moved out to LA.
Yeah.
You said you were working for MTV.
Yeah. So Emerson, one of the things about them that, you know, was attractive to me when I was young, or when I was 18 looking for colleges, was that they have an LA program. They have like an LA campus where you can go for your last semester, intern at somewhere in LA and take classes and finish school. So I bent the rules a little bit, and instead of getting just one internship, I wound up getting two at MTV and Comedy Central, and was working like 60 hours a week and taking classes, and learned a lot. From there, I got into this pilot program that Fremantle Media, which is like they're like the biggest production company in the world. They do American Idol, but they don't do American Idol. They do Pop Idol in Britain and Australian Idol and, you know, Japanese Idol and so on. Like, their business is not just making shows. It's about making formats and then licensing those formats to as many countries as possible. So they one summer did this program where they picked 10 people who were about to graduate college or had just graduated college, and they gave us a week to develop and pitch a reality show to their executives, and like attend seminars and stuff like that. So I did that for a week, and then they optioned my show and gave me a job developing reality shows at 22. Wow. Which, like, I'd never wanted to do reality. I didn't really like reality TV, but it's like, you're 22 and someone's offering you $40,000, you take the job. Like, that's just, there's no question.
Yeah. And that's how reality TV gets made.
Exactly. It was the show that they bought was a docuseries about identical twin sisters who were in a band. And
that was your idea?
That was my idea, because I had gone to college with one of the sisters, and she was just a very interesting character, and I had wanted to do something like a Curb Your Enthusiasm, like a soft scripted, partially improvised show about these twins. So I just pitched it as a reality show, and it happened to be that, like, everyone in reality at that time was looking for a twin show. So, like,
what was going on for that? Just because that was a hole they wanted to fill, or was there something else that had happened?
Like, the way reality TV works is, at least for docuseries, it's sort of like they're looking for new subcultures or new types of relationships or families that haven't been exposed to TV yet. And then if one of them pops in a big way, then everybody tries to find a different version of that same thing. So, like, Pawn Stars had kind of just come out around that time. So everyone was looking for their Pawn Stars. And True TV had one that was like Hardcore Pawn was their version. And it's like, you know, like some like harder-edged, angrier Pawn Stars.
The names.
Yeah. I love coming up with titles. Like, I know if something is worth pursuing if the title makes me laugh. One show, at one point I was trying to get my bosses to let me do a show that was like a reality competition show of competitive glass blowers, and it was going to be called Heart of Glass. But
would you get the license the Blondie?
Yeah, exactly. That would have been the song, like the theme song, and like for me, I'm a very sort of like visual person inside my head. Like if I can see the thing and if I can hear the thing, then I know it's right. Like this one, I tried pitching this as a movie recently, something called Instagrampires, and it's literally like, what if, the top 1% of like Instagram influencers were all bitten by vampires overnight, and it was really fucking cool and hip to be a vampire. And it's just like a skewering of social media, but the thing that made me laugh was the dumb title of Instagram.
That could work on a few levels.
Yeah.
Because even if you got rid of the Insta, you could do like vampires.
And it's just a bunch of old vampires. That might even be more sellable. I don't know. Yeah. So I was doing that for 2 years. Never sold anything myself, but like worked on a bunch of things that sold. And I didn't like the job, and I was actively torpedoing my own career. Like I'd gotten so depressed that I kind of like, I didn't stop working, but I stopped working at the level I should have been for the job that I had, just hoping that someone would fire me so I could figure out what I actually want to do. What I actually wanted to do was comedy. I had been denying it for years. But at the time I was like taking improv classes and doing shows and like learning to love performing again. 'Cause I'd taken a hiatus from stand-up because I'd gotten really burnt out. It's like a very lonely life where you spend a lot of time at mics listening to depressed people and angry people work their shit out on stage. So it's like if you don't have like friends in that world, which like I had in Boston but not in LA, you get burnt out pretty easily. So I was doing improv and I was like, fuck it, I want to act. So they didn't renew my contract after 2 years, and I was like, fine, cool, I'm gone. Started taking a bunch of odd jobs to pay the bills and like, tried to make acting work. And I wound up as sort of like a side thing for fun, because I'm a big TV junkie. AfterBuzz TV, the TV recap podcast, and like it's a little harder to get in now, but like the thing that's cool about them is like they don't pay any of their hosts, but because of that, they always need new talent, and they'll take you even if you have no experience. So like me, this guy who's never hosted anything before but kind of has a comedy background, suddenly I'm like hosting a podcast and it's successful, and I started doing more shows for them, and then within a year I was hosting 10 shows a week for them. So like that's like watching the show and then doing the podcast. So like I was there like 20 hours a week for free, but I was getting, real on-the-job training, like not just in how to hold people's attention and talk for an hour and make it coherent and make it interesting and build an audience, but like talking to showrunners and actors and writers and producers and like being professional and having them want to come back and get more people from the show to come in and talk about it. All of a sudden I was good at this thing that I had just started doing really as a hobby. And then the audition for SourceFed came in, I guess, maybe 2 years into just sort of fucking around doing that stuff, maybe a year and a half.
How did you wait. Fucking around, how were you living? What was
I was like,
the income source?
I was a Lyft driver. I was one of the first Lyft drivers in Los Angeles. Like right when Lyft came to Los Angeles, they had this deal where they couldn't guarantee that you'd be able to make enough money giving people rides to make a living. Sure. So they had what they called a pay floor, where no matter what, even if you didn't get any rides in an hour, no matter what, you would get paid $18 an hour as long as you were on call. So I would just like work crazy hours with Lyft and like drive to like 4 a.m. and whatever. And then during the day, I was going to bartending school and I was like bartending parties. For a while, I was working as a kids' birthday party entertainer. I'd dress up as Spider-Man and go to birthday parties.
Oh, wow.
Just like whatever I could do to like, you know, it was like that, unemployment, severance. I cashed out my 401k, which like, don't do that. You shouldn't do that. But like, you know, I'd been working in reality for 2 years, and I'd built up like a nice little nugget, and I was sort of living off of that. And when the SourceFed audition came in, I was maybe about a month away from like really having to look at my life and have to buckle down and get some kind of full-time office job just to rebuild and maintain. And thank goodness it worked out. It was just an LA casting thing, a random thing. Went in and did my first audition for James Hafner, who was the executive producer at the time, and this guy Scott Pellegrino, who was a producer there. And like I was sick. I was like crazy sick. So I drove out to where the office was and found a Starbucks. I was there like an hour early, and I was like writing up my jokes, and like I had a venti hot green tea and a venti iced green tea, and I was just like chain drinking green teas until I was like vibrating with the energy of the universe. I had so much caffeine in me. And went in, did my stories, made them laugh, and was just like genuinely nice and just interested. I'd never heard of SourceFed before. I didn't know what it was. So I was just like, oh, cool, you guys have like a cardboard TARDIS like leaning up against your wall, and like just like being affable and then like doing characters and impressions. They didn't really ask. I was like, oh, you know, I just did this thing for UCB and like making them laugh with that. And I don't know, it just felt really good. They had me back 2 more times, once to read off of prompter, and then another time to do like a test story with Elliot during a work day. And that was that. I got the phone call. I was like on my way in to do a podcast, and I got the phone call. Like I nearly fell over. I was so excited.
What year was that? Because the SourceFed timeline is really messed up in my head because I watched it from the beginning, so I wasn't like being like, it is now 2014. Matt Lieberman
that is March of 2014.
Oh, it was 2014.
Yeah, March of 2014. Like, the day that we announced that SourceFed was ending was the 3-year anniversary of my first video. Yeah. So it really came down to the wire, 3 years. But yeah, they had already at that point hired on Will and Raina, who they already had a relationship with because they were both previous interns. So I'm, to my knowledge, I'm still the only person. Me and Maud are the only people who've been hired at SourceFed or SourceFed Nerd, like other than the originals, through an actual audition. Right. Like everybody else was sort of like, you know, it already sort of established and people knew who they were and brought them in to see if they'd fit. But like we both came in sort of like on a classic audition scenario. And I credit Scott Pellegrino for like really fighting to hire me. And apparently I wasn't going to be hired at all, but then Elliot told them that he was going to be leaving and they knew they needed someone to fill the slot. Like apparently someone, I don't know who, but apparently someone felt that I was too much like Elliot and that it wouldn't, I would be redundant, which like I don't see that at all. No. But yeah, so got hired in March of 2014, and then they told me that Elliot was leaving maybe like 2 months later, and then I got brought on full time. And around, like Ross was still there when I got there, and like all that like weird stuff was going on like my first month, and like at the time I was still part time, so like I was there maybe once or twice a week, so like I didn't really know what was going on in the office. No one really got to know me. Like Trisha took me out my first day for lunch and kind of gave me the lay of the land, which I'll always appreciate. But like the first year was kind of rough for me. I was like I was making a lot of mistakes. I was like I was like responding to trolls, and
I was going to say, well, you were a new person on an established channel, so I'm sure.
Right. There was like a lot of
shitty people came out.
Yeah. But then also like, all the other hosts were going through like a lot of shit. Like it was like their friends were leaving. You know what I mean? Like, and I was just like this new guy.
You were the replacement or whatever.
There was kind of like no one really had any interest in getting to know me. And like I'm a sensitive guy. I felt that for a while. So like it took me a while to kind of find my equilibrium there. And I think that's something that I kind of struggled with throughout the whole time that I was there. Was like, how does the audience feel about me? How do my coworkers feel about me? And I think really up until Nuclear Family, I was still wrestling with that.
Well, to your credit, it didn't play like that.
Thanks.
So you did. I mean, it was.
Thanks.
You were an equal amongst everyone there to those watching, I would say.
Thank you.
No
yeah.
So let's just, I guess, wrap up talking about Nuclear Family, because that was a special thing. I love Nuclear Family.
Thanks very much.
And it's too bad that it ended, prematurely just before SourceFed itself.
Yeah.
But how did that get going? Who were the driving forces behind that?
So when Jeremy came in, like we had almost a year without an executive producer. James Hafner left, and then they were looking for an EP for almost a year. So we were left without someone really kind of guiding us and telling us what to do. Yeah. Which was, like, I feel like we lost a lot of numbers during that period. Like, that's nobody at our office's fault, but, like, we didn't have any direction.
Well, you just didn't have leadership, and that can happen.
So Jeremy came in, and he started letting us do sketches on SourceFed Nerd, and I was like the head writer behind those, and that had kind of become my passion project. And Bree was this very, like, talented actress, and she started doing the Sansa vlogs, and, like, she and I were, like, very excited by sketch. And Jeremy saw that, like, we had this passion for this thing, and we were maybe, more suited to doing that than, hosting a pop culture show, which is what SourceFed had kind of become at the time.
Right.
So he sort of, like, split off the hosts to, like, different networks, and he's like, Bree and Matt, you guys are going to do a new sketch comedy channel. We're going to just do that. He, like, was able to set up this deal with YouTube Red to secure us some funding, and it's like, you're just going to do that for this year. You have to make, like, almost 100 videos to fulfill our contract, but figure out what you want the thing to be. Steve's going to be a part of it. 3 of you figure out what you want it to be, and go. So, yeah, it was, like, just a very sudden thing. Like, you're going to say goodbye to SourceFed, and then the date of our premiere kept getting pushed back. So, like, we shot the first sketch for Nuclear Family, I think, in early September of 2015, and then the channel didn't premiere until January of 2016. So we're just sort of, like, waiting and sort of, like, figuring out what the voice was and figuring out what the workflow was going to be, because, like, the editor, we didn't have a specific Nuclear Family editor. Every editor wound up editing some Nuclear Family. Sure. Our production team, like, had to work to fit us into what was already a very packed schedule. Like, shows had to go away in order to give time for them to be able to even shoot our stuff. We only had, like, 1 day a week to shoot, which is crazy when you're trying to do sketch comedy.
Right.
So, yeah, the first, like, 4 or 5 months were pretty hectic, just trying to get it off the ground. And then once we launched with that heroin video, which, like, blew up. And then all of a sudden, like, corporate, it kind of came down, was, like, very excited by us and our potential. And we just sort of had to try to maintain that success. And nothing ever blew up quite the same way that did. But what I'll credit Jeremy for is he did sort of give us license to to do almost whatever we want. Like, there weren't a ton of limits. Some things, like, kind of got reined in if they were a little too political. And we fought him on things. Like, the one thing that I think any good boss needs to be able to do is be able to say, okay, like, when we disagreed on something and Bree and I felt very passionately about it, there are only a few times that he ever, like, was really like, no, absolutely not. Like, you know, he was willing, and I think we all were willing, and this is why I think the writing on the channel was as good as it was no one was too proud to say that they were wrong or that someone might not know better. Like, when we wrote as a group, there was a lot of synergy because we could rewrite each other and it wasn't a big deal. As long as it's like, you know, we're all sitting in the same room, like, I'll be charging ahead writing more of the first draft. Bree and Steve and Jeremy will be, like, rewriting jokes and whatever behind me, and then I'll go back and I might, like, reword one or two things, but just sort of like whatever's the funniest thing goes in. I think when you write collaboratively, you can't have an ego. Like, if you feel strongly about something that, like, structurally it makes sense, or, like, taste-wise you don't want to go to a certain place, that's one thing. But if it's just, like, who's funnier, at some point you should just be working with people that are funny. So it's like, my funny and your funny aren't necessarily the same, but neither is necessarily wrong.
Right.
Like, I feel like Bree has a very strong understanding of what a YouTube audience finds funny in a way that I don't. Like, for me, I think my sensibilities are a bit more classical, and, like, my training is maybe a little more, like, classical in that way. So I'm just focused on, like, the music of a piece. Like, are the jokes coming in the right spots? Do the reversals hit? That's what matters to me most. When it comes to punchlines, whatever's getting the biggest laughs in the room should go in. Like, if you're going to, like, you know, fucking whine about it, like, that your joke didn't get in, like, fuck you, write better jokes. Like, there should never, ever be a situation where you're hemming and hawing because the bit that you wanted to put in didn't get in. Like, if you only have one bit, you shouldn't be in this business. Write another bit.
Right.
Yeah, there was just sort of a trust between all of us that no matter what we put into a thing, it was going to be funny and it was going to be worthwhile. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know if you have any more specific questions about it, but, like, I really hoped that we were going to be able to do more. It was a bummer that we didn't. We weren't able to get funding for it, which stinks because I think that we had some really good synergy. But I'm proud of the work that we did. I think with sketch comedy, you're lucky if, like, you know, 10, 20% of the stuff you make is good. And I feel like, you know, I'm proud of maybe like almost half of the stuff we did. Like,
that's a high percentage for a
I would say
person.
so. I mean, like, the things I really like, you know, it's maybe in that, like, 20%, but I think a lot of even the stuff that's, like, maybe not my favorite, I think is still good.
Like, worthy of the time you put into it and the result.
You know, and like, the idea, and this is, like, even going back to what I was doing with my personal channel and just sort of being able to be there and be the kind of figure that I wish I had when I was a teenager, like somebody that I related to and that I thought was funny and that actually cared about what I had to say and what I was going through. The idea that my stuff might be the comedic influence for some young person, the way that those, like, cult shows like Clone High and whatever that I was, like, downloading illegally and watching in my bedroom over and over, that I might be that thing for some person is maybe the most gratifying thing I'll ever experience.
Well, yeah, I'm sure there is at least one, and I'm sure there are more, but, you know, people out there that have been influenced by, you know, stuff at SourceFed and Nuclear Family. So
yeah, I think it might be like the first sketch comedy that a lot of people have been exposed to outside of SNL.
Yeah, especially like the young YouTuber crowd of people that watch YouTube, because sketch was such a big thing at the start of YouTube, I feel like, or maybe towards a little bit after, and then it disappeared, you know, and then I felt like Nuclear Family was a cool foray back into that alongside. I can't think of anything right now, but there's other stuff that was surging back around that time of like sketch channels and stuff like that.
Yeah, the station just came back. Like, there's a few places that are I mean, Just Between Us, what they do is awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I thought it was just a part of a cool thing. So that generation, the millennials, or the Gen Z, which is a thing, I guess, now, that was probably their first exposure to sketch. So that's pretty cool.
Cool. Anything else? I mean, I'm...
No.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't want to take up too much more of your time. Is there any, like, what should people look out for?
I mean, the podcast, which as of right now is just going to be the Matt Lieberman show. I keep bouncing back and forth between why I like it and like sort of like it's a generalized rule when you're making something and not a ton of people know who you are, like you know, come up with a title or a concept that's more appealing to people who may not know you.
Sure.
But the concept of the show that I want to do is very much, it's just me. And what I like about that title is the show can be whatever I want it to be week to week. I can throw away the format one week if I really want to, and the audience shouldn't mind that much, because as long as it's me doing whatever the thing is, it's still the Matt Lieberman show.
That's your classic TV influence coming
yeah.
in. Or even like, I mean, that goes back to radio and stuff like that, but any of those guys that, you know, the Milton Berle show,
exactly,
or, you know, all these variety shows and stuff
it's
like
going to
that.
be a bit of a variety show. There's going to be interviews, there's going to be comedy and characters, there's going to be food, there's going to be pop culture, current events, maybe some politics, I don't know. But that is coming, I think, sometime in May. If you're not subscribed to my YouTube channel, there's going to be more cooking videos coming.
Everyone loves
I know. So I need to do more of that. It's just, at this point, it's really just about getting organized. But
sure.
There will be cooking videos. There's going to be a cookbook that I'm trying to have finished by the end of the year. My Instagram, I post daily stories with my guinea pigs, which a lot of people seem to enjoy, so that's pretty cool. And I mean, other than that, there's nothing else I can really talk about right now. But
sure, yeah.
I have friends who knew me back when I was doing AfterBuzz, and they always tell me that I'm like the busiest person that they know, and I've been like in my head like, no, that's stupid. I don't have a full-time job anymore. But then I think about all the things that I'm doing, and I'm like, oh shit, yeah, no, I'm very busy. And if you're in LA and you want to learn comedy, I teach comedy at the Pack Theater. So if you want to learn how to make video sketches like Nuclear Family and how to build an audience the way that SourceFed did, I teach a class on it. So yeah, cool. People can take that. That's the only place I've ever taken sketch comedy classes. So like, it's a great theater. You should just go there and take classes.
Awesome. Did you ever watch Don't Think Twice?
I have not seen it. I was like obsessed with the trailer, and then it just fell off my radar. But I know I'll get a lot out of it.
Yeah. It was a good one. I just watched it, so
the thing.
The improv.
Yeah.
Scene.
Well, the thing. I'm sure I'll love the movie, but the thing that's already given me a lot to think about, and that like really makes me feel good, is Mike Birbiglia, who's been a comic for like almost 2 decades now.
Yeah,
right.
Life.
He workshopped that script to hell, and like he did 12 drafts of it, and like had people come and read and workshop with him. Like he workshopped that script over the course of years. So I'm like, if I'm not completely satisfied with a product the first time I write it, I can be chill with that, and I should be, and any writer should be. Like even he takes that amount of time and care to actually get it to be something awesome.
wasn't that great? I really enjoyed talking with Matt. I could have talked for another 24 hours, let's say. But yeah, so make sure to check out Matt's work and everything he's got coming in the pipeline here, because he's been working hard. And he's quite funny, quite talented. So next week, I will be talking to Macon Blair, director, actor, screenwriter. You know him probably from Green Room and his directorial debut, I Don't Feel at Home in This World Anymore. We talk about that title. I like it, he likes it, so there you go. And we talk about it a lot more. It's a really great conversation, and I'm feeling good because it's the first week in a while that I can say next week we are talking to so-and-so. So that's good. Hopefully we can keep things rolling here and keep talking to some cool people. In the meantime, you can keep up with the podcast on Facebook, Butterfly Effect Podcast, YouTube, same name, Butterfly Effect Podcast, Twitter @ButterflyPod. I'm on Twitter @Ettletod, ETTLETODD, and the email trettleman@gmail.com, TRETTLEMAN @gmail.com. And that you can forward along any kind of well wishes, criticism, feedback, people you want to see on the show there. I would appreciate all of that. So thank you for listening. Look forward to next week's episode, and I'll talk to you later.